Hello and welcome. I'm your host, Wim Liu. Alex Wong is in Montreal this week, enjoying some WWE and some special massages. Just kidding, just WWE and some regular massages. Joining me, longtime collaborator, friend of the program, Joe Wolfond. What's going on, buddy?
Not much. Happy to be here. Curious to hear more about Alex's adventures in Montreal. It was quite quite a way to start the program.
You know, a man's got to go to Montreal in the middle of winter. You know, there's got to be a special reason, you know, because it might be the only place on earth colder than Toronto at the moment. But, nah, just kidding. Alex is a huge WWE fan, and he's there to watch WWE, as I understand. Joe, I was going to introduce you as writer at large, but you've been assigned to Raptors in 7. Friend of the program, Big V, has a newsletter. Everyone should go check it out. It's over at Substack, Raptors in 7. And I swear this was not planned in this context, but we were always going to talk about your piece about Immanuel Quickley, which you entitled The Quickley Quandary. But is it a quandary after the man has the most efficient 40 ball in NBA history, in Raptors history? Yeah, it just worked out kind of perfectly. Joe, did you tell Quick to, you know, go off so that we have a good show? Like, what was the plan here?
I mean, not in so many words, but if there were a scenario where he was going to say, read that piece and decide, hey, all these things that you said I was struggling to do, I'm just going to do them way better. I think that's what we saw play out last night. Obviously he's not going to shoot like that every night. I mean, that was a crazy heater.
Yep.
What did he go, 7 for 8 from 3? In the end,
and the one miss was he had to beat the buzzer. It was like a late shot clock.
Yeah.
They inbounded to him in the corner, and he was fading. Absurd.
So, look, I think he was due for a bit of regression on the 3-point front anyway. You know, you still don't expect a 7 for 8 kind of performance, but I think what was most encouraging to me about that game was really a lot of the stuff that I had highlighted in that piece about where he was struggling. I wouldn't say it was all necessarily addressed or washed away in that one performance, but it was really encouraging to see the intent with which he was attacking, like getting into the teeth of the defense and sort of scoring and playmaking from there, right? Getting to the line for 11 free throws. I'm assuming that's a season high for him. And a lot of the playmaking that he was doing was more of the inside-out variety, which is not often what we see from him. He was getting deeper paint touches. Even when the Warriors were zoning up, it was like, this is something that had been a big point of frustration with me was, you know, for the Raptors as a whole, so often when they would get zoned, it's just like ping the ball around the perimeter. And I liked seeing that there was actually an intention to drive the zone, right? Like pass it around, try and get that defense out of shape a little bit. And then, you know, Quick gets a step on somebody, right? Like attacks a closeout and play makes from there. So all of that stuff was just as encouraging as the shooting to me, like seeing that he was really making that good faith attempt to kind of get into the middle and play through contact in a way that, you know, we haven't really seen from him in the recent past.
Yeah. You know, okay, I think we want to start a conversation there because would you agree with this sentence just based on especially seeing the coverage and even just the fan reaction to this season? Because I felt like Immanuel Quickley is the most overhated player on the roster. And it really cemented it when people were like, you know, Grady Dick plays a lot better when IQ's not there. I'm like, Grady Dick bricking shots has nothing to do with IQ, man. We're reaching too hard here. I just feel I don't know, he became a lightning rod for a lot of the criticism around this season. And obviously this season has gone really well on the whole. People can understand that. But there's obviously some weaknesses. His contract has never been particularly friendly, which always opens you up to more criticism. But people were treating him like the modern day Damari Carroll or something, and I'm like, it's not that bad. He could do better for sure, and we're gonna try to have a really fair evaluation of what he does well and what he doesn't do well. But I don't know, it's weird. Every season there's always got to be one guy that's the lightning rod for everything, and I guess Quickley was that guy. Basically, he's been that for the entire season outside of short stretches.
Yeah, I think a lot of it just has to do with expectations, right? Based on who they traded to get him. And I wrote this in the piece. Like, I think at the time he was seen as the centerpiece of that trade. And, I don't know exactly like how the front office was thinking about him versus RJ. And like, I think you can just look at the fact that immediately they turned around. Like, I know the timing worked out that way, that IQ was an RFA and they had to pay him, but they turned around and gave him 5-year, $162 million contract to keep him. And almost immediately you're hearing RJ's name in trade rumors, right? So if you're thinking about, how are these two players viewed in terms of the package that came back for OG, I think at the time, at least, it seemed like IQ was the priority there. And they saw him as somebody who was going to be able to grow alongside Scotty, the kind of guard who could fit next to him really well, this sort of on-ball, off-ball hybrid that I think makes a lot of sense in that context. And he was sort of pitched as like the lead guard of the future. And like, look, I'll put my hand up. Like that was sort of how I saw him too. I was really excited when they got him. And I remember coming on your show, like at the Raptors show that season when we were talking about OG's name had obviously been out there. It seemed pretty clear they were going to trade him. And we were talking about potential frameworks. And I remember being like, the guy I want them to go and get is Immanuel Quickley. So I think, for me and probably a lot of other fans too, like that was our expectation, was that he was going to come in, we were going to see this kind of growth, and he was going to be that lead guard of the future. And so if you take, who got traded out in order to bring him in, and then the contract they gave him, that set the bar pretty high. So I think that's where a lot of the frustration is coming from, is just the context around his place on this team. But like, if you're looking at it in a vacuum, I mean, I think it's fair to say that you would want more from him and expect more from him, obviously, up until last night's game. Because frankly, I don't think there has been a ton of progress in the areas where he struggled. In the specific things that made him feel overextended as a lead guard, I don't think we've seen a ton of growth in the couple seasons that he's been in Toronto. And I think that is maybe part of the frustration, is like, the idea was you go and you get this young guard and you pay him for the player that you think he's going to be, rather than the player he's been up to this point, and he's sort of continued to stagnate in his progress. So I think that's all fair, honestly. Like, I do think that it's definitely gone over the top sometimes, and like people calling him trash when he's clearly not. Like, to me, he's still, even when he is struggling, can be a really helpful player, especially in the context of this team that is so starved for shooting. I think he's borne, the brunt of a lot of that unfairly, but I also understand why the frustration is what it is.
So, I think let's break it down to like what he has been bad at and what he can improve on, versus what he's pretty good at already and what the team already needs. So, I feel like the bad really breaks down for IQ to two things. The much bigger thing is that he's not particularly physical. He doesn't impact the paint very much. Part of the things that I saw from your piece, again, the Quickley quandary on the Raptors and 7 Substack by Joe Wolfond, but it's the inability to touch the paint. Like, he's the 5th percentile paint impact. I would love for you to explain that a little bit more. 36% of his passes go into the paint versus 47% for Jamal Shed. So there's a clear difference. Even though two guys are running the same offense, one guy's hitting the paint a lot more often, both in himself and also in his passes. And then I think a bit weaker, but obviously we understand that he's a really good shooter, and he had just been underperforming from 3. Last night kind of corrected a lot of these numbers, but I did have some numbers pulled up here with the shooting. Let's just start with just the overall, maybe the biggest thing with IQ is just he doesn't hit the paint very often for guard, and for a Raptors team that outside of RJ Barrett, and I guess Scotty when he's playing bully ball, there's not a lot of like north-south movement. And that sometimes leads to some of the stagnation we see with the offense. And that probably actually contributes to the Raptors overall having poor three-point shooting percentages, considering we just don't break the shell of the defense too often. But start with there in terms of just IQ's paint presence.
Yeah, I mean, I think to me, it feels like sort of a twofold problem where one of the things is like he doesn't love playing through contact, playing in a crowd. And I think that's not necessarily just about an aversion to physicality. I think it's as much about his handle as anything. But if you see Like if he starts a drive and somebody comes over and does like a strong side dig or like a dig at the nail, he's picking up his dribble like 90% of the time. You know, like he is not somebody who you're going to see dribble through a dig very often. And you see like when he sort of does break the paint and maybe it's like the big man stepping up in pick and roll or somebody else converging in help, a lot of the time he's picking up his dribble rather than sort of keeping that live dribble going and probing a little bit more, or even dribbling it back out. It's like, I think when you hear some of the complaints about, well, is he a point guard? Is he not? I think that is, like, if you compare him to some of the best point guards in the game, those are the guys who really probe with a live dribble and wait for, you know, whether it's scoring opportunities or playmaking opportunities, wait for something to crack open later in the possession, whereas IQ is very quick to either pick up his dribble or just get off the ball in a way that's not always creating an advantage. And so I think IQ's a decent passer. I don't think he's an amazing passer, but I think what really limits him as a playmaker more than anything is that inability to like really probe with a live dribble deep into the paint and like wait for those opportunities to open up in the first place. And so that's kind of like, you know, when you look at I'll explain, you know, what you mentioned about his impact on, it's actually not the paint. It's how often the team shoots specifically at the rim, like inside the restricted area.
Okay.
Because if you look at like upper paint, floater range, essentially, that actually goes up significantly with IQ on the floor because he himself is shooting a lot of floaters. And also when you see him running pick and roll, a lot of those short roll passes are going to the floater range.
Yeah.
You know, they're going to Yak in that range when he's healthy. They're going to Scotty in that range. So the Raptors shoot a lot more in that part of the paint when IQ's on the floor, and they shoot way less frequently at the rim. And I think what's kind of damning about that is, you know, it's one thing if IQ's not a high rim presence type of guard. There are a lot of guards who don't get to the rim a ton, but they can still positively impact their team's ability to get there because of the spacing they're providing or because of the way that they're able to set teammates up for rim shots with their playmaking. And IQ is kind of doing neither of those things. Like the benefits of like his 3-point shooting and like the spacing he ostensibly provides is not translating into more rim shots for the team when he's on the floor. And, you know, we can get into some of why that might be, but I think if you look at the team's overall shot profile when he's out there, objectively, it is less efficient. Because the other part of that is like they're not getting to the rim as much, but they're also not shooting a higher rate of threes when he's out there either. It's really just all of those shots being moved from like the rim to the short mid-range or the long mid-range. And just like one more caveat before I throw it back to you, but like even when he's out there, like they're still basically an average rim frequency team. It's just that when he's off the floor, they shoot up to being like one of the highest rim frequency teams in the league. So,
right, and that's the thing, because you have the comparable in Jamal Shed. Like I think there's been, even though Jamal's numbers are like as humble as they come, you know what I mean? It's always like 7 points per game and like sub 50 true shooting percentage, below 40 from the field, like hovering around 30 from three. But when you actually like watch and experience the game, I feel like a lot of people prefer Jamal's approach to leading the point in terms of sort of how he impacts it, and that gives you that comparable in terms of like, okay, what else could be possible within the exact same offense with pretty much the exact same teammates. And I say pretty much because obviously Jamal plays more with the second unit, IQ plays more with the starters, but yeah, like what is it about Jamal that makes him more effective at specifically some of these things in terms of like collapsing the defense? I mean, we can see that he's more athletic and like more physical than IQ, but is that it? Is there mentality? Like what else do you feel like goes into that?
I mean, it's like the straight line speed is just kind of at a different level, right? Like his first step, his burst off the dribble is different. So I think
I feel like he also gets low too. Like Jamal gets like really low, and it's like a running back being able to like punch through a gap. If you're higher in your center of gravity, like IQ, and he's also less strong, but like, yeah, I think that factors into.
Yeah, like no, it's honestly just like that first step is so much more advantageous, I feel like, for Shed, as far as, you know, even like the thing that I mentioned about playing through a dig, right? Mm-hmm. Like I just feel like Jamal, it's not even necessarily that his handle is like so much better, but it's like the quickness with which he is able to break through that first line of defense just allows him to bypass some of that help in a way that IQ doesn't. He's just rapid. And like if you look at, compare a play where either one of those guys rejects a screen, right? Like Shed rejects a screen and it feels like he is kind of in the restricted area, or close to it in the blink of an eye, whereas it just unfolds a little bit more slowly when IQ is involved in that type of a possession. And so, the interesting thing, it's a really interesting point of comparison looking at the way that those two players individually impact the team and like where their passes go, because Shed, in a way, has a lot of the same limitations as an interior scorer than Quickley. Like he honestly has like more of those limitations. Like this dude's shooting 38% on his drives and is passing out of his drives at basically the highest rate in the league. So if you're frustrated with IQ for, never finishing his drives or not being able to score at the rim, it's like, those problems are like twofold when it comes to Shed. But the difference is because Shed is getting deeper touches, because he's getting into the paint more regularly, he's also frankly like just like a better passer, I think, than IQ is.
Sure,
but
definitely a different variety of passes.
But I think because he is actually breaking down the defense at the point of attack more consistently and getting deeper into the paint, his passes are then more profitable. Like you're finding he's like his lay down passes, like things like that are opening up because of the sort of downward pressure that he's exerting on the defense. So even though he isn't really threatening as a rim scorer himself, he is getting into spots of the defense that are opening up opportunities for other guys to score at the basket. So like I mentioned in that piece, 47% of Shed's assists go to the rim. And for IQ, that number is only 36%. So it's a pretty significant difference. And I think what's really interesting about that is like they kind of cover for each other's weaknesses in a way. And that's why I think the team's been at its best when both of them are on the floor together. And if you want to take it back to this sort of overarching idea of like what actually is IQ as a player, I mean, when the two of them are out there together, really it's Shed who's playing point guard. Yeah. And I think that's telling, right? And it's telling that is what's happening, and it's telling that the Raptors are honestly slapping teams when both of those guys are out there together, like plus 10.5 points per 100 possessions with Shed and Quickley on the floor. And that might go some way toward explaining, what IQ is sort of best at doing.
Stepping aside from just the IQ of it all and looking at the point guard position, like there's always this big discussion about like who should be the point guard, like should it be IQ, should it be Jamal, should it be Scotty? Like those are usually the three candidates. I mean, I guess RJ sometimes gets thrown in here, but realistically, we know he's not a point guard like that, but he can run point in a pinch, I suppose. But like there's always this discussion around those three players in particular, and obviously when everyone's healthy, which the Raptors haven't been since November, but the discussion is usually between IQ and Scotty. The one thing I have in terms of just like with the Raptors point guard position is I think, especially in this offense, whoever runs the point is much less liable to score. And it's kind of weird because for a lot of other offenses, you give the ball to a guy that you're kind of increasing his like overall usage, his presence, and you're almost making it easier for a guy to score when you give him the ball. But I think there's something about this offense, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Like, I feel like whoever runs the point has to sacrifice a bit of their own stats and a bit of their own efficiency. And whoever ends up playing off the ball ends up being more efficient and also scores more often in this team. Do you agree with that sort of assessment?
I think there's something to that, but I wonder if you think that that's reflective of the Raptors' offensive system or if it's just reflective of the two guys that they typically have running point. I think...
Okay.
Shed, like that's just sort of who he is as a player. Like he's not a score first guard. He's always going to look to make plays for others. And that's at this point in time really what he is best at doing. And with IQ, I think a lot of the time he just frankly is more dangerous when he's off of the ball. And it's also the fact that the Raptors, even if he didn't have these sort of limitations as an on-ball guard, I think it makes sense for them to play him off the ball as much as possible because he's the one guy who has like significant off-ball gravity.
Sure.
So if you look at the starting lineup, if he's the one who's handling the ball, it's like who is sort of providing that gravity off the ball, who's providing that space for him. And I got to say, like, I think that maybe has something to do with the fact that he's getting into the paint, getting to the rim so infrequently is like, it's not, exactly optimal spacing for him when he's playing on ball either. So
That's fair.
I think that has a lot to do with why they align their offense the way that they do. And I mean, I don't know. What is your take on that? Like, do you think there's something to the way that the Raptors structure their offense that is creating these conditions, or?
Well, I mean, okay, let's say you're running like a standard offense, like a Nick Nurse or Tom Thibodeau type of offense. You give the ball to whoever you're going to run point through, and like we saw Nick, for example, run point through Scotty. We've seen him run point through like Pascal. So it wasn't just Fred, but like you give a guy more possessions to play more pick and roll, and typically speaking, that leads to at least more volume scoring. Who knows if that means you're more efficient? Probably not, to be honest, because you're having to break down the defense instead of getting open. Darko's actually been asked about it earlier this year, and I don't have the clip right here, but like he actually talked about how much the Raptors don't really run that many pick and rolls. I think it was in comparison to like the Lakers, for example. They're like, okay, like Luka runs basically more pick and rolls by himself per game than the Raptors do as a team. But their view of the situation was that like the Raptors don't have that strong pick and roll player, which I think is fair. Like obviously we don't have like one of these true like dominant pick and roll guys, but like and I think it's especially the case when they put Scotty at the point, because Scotty can run the point. But I feel like he's been so effective this year, kind of playing some point, but also playing off the ball as well, so the guys can set him up a little bit easier, get him on the roll, get him so he can work off ball, get in position. It's like, I guess you could give Brandon the ball more too to like create his own offense. But again, we've seen him being really efficient off the ball. So it just feels like a whole collection of players on the same team that all are more efficient off the ball, in my opinion, except for guys like Jamal, who is not efficient off the ball, but like is very good at organizing the team and getting guys in their position. And also, even yesterday with IQ, like I don't want to give all of IQ's 40 points like credit to Jamal. If you really watch back the tape, very few of those were even set up by Jamal. A lot of those were just IQ being able to create on his own. And he also had 10 assists, which really helped set up the team, especially down crunch time. But the flip side is, and this is where we should talk about what IQ does well as a player, but it's like the weaknesses of the Raptors have are the strengths that IQ also has. And IQ has obviously underperformed up until last night. But if IQ comes back to career norms, it actually fixes a lot of the issues the Raptors currently have. Like the Raptors, ironically, we talk about all these point guards they could trade for. IQ fits a lot of the needs that this team has, so long as he's actually playing up to normal standards.
Yeah, I think that's exactly right. I think the one thing I'd push back on in terms of, I think Ingram is the one guy who I'd say that he's better with the ball than without it. Not that he's
like
been
where?
bad.
Like, is it like? Are you talking about like when he catches it on the like at the elbow and he's
well, yeah,
like,
that's. I
doing
mean, that
ISO,
I guess that's the distinction, right? Is like he's not starting the ball, the possession with the ball in his hands, right? Like you're running him off an Iverson cut, or like a little wide pin down just to get him the ball in the spots that he likes it. But then after he has it, that's sort of when he's most dangerous, as opposed to him spending a possession kind of spotting up or drifting around on the perimeter.
Yeah.
But I do kind of raise an eyebrow because I hear a lot of people say, well, the Raptors have a lot of guys who need the ball in their hands, and I really don't think that is true for anybody except for Brandon. But to your point about where the Raptors are kind of deficient and the ways in which IQ is in many ways a kind of ideal fit with that. It's like this team is 24th in 3-point attempt rate. And now, after last night, they were dead last. They're all the way back up to 27th in 3-point accuracy. So
incredible,
unbelievable leap in one night. But still, obviously, one of the worst and lowest volume shooting 3-point teams in the league. And Quickley I still think you could be getting more 3-point volume out of him. There are still threes that he passes up at times. I think that they're. I don't think they run actually enough off-ball actions for him. Like so much of the time when he's on the weak side, he's kind of like he might be shaking up from the corner to the wing or from the wing to the top, sort of forming up around a drive or a post up. Mm-hmm. But they're not. Like if you see some of the kind of off-ball weapons in the league, like you're seeing they're running off of exit screens and pin downs and things like that constantly. And with IQ, I don't, it's not a ton of that. So I feel like they could honestly be making like a little bit better use of him as like a weak side weapon. But yeah, that is sort of like he is the highest volume, the most dangerous three-point shooter on a team that desperately needs that. He's like the only guy on the team who shoots threes in transition. And you saw that last night. Like how many of his threes last night came like in transition or semi-transition as like a trailer on the break? 3 or 4 of those threes, right? That's something that he brings that nobody else on the team brings. And he, I don't love IQ when he's leading the break. He can make some questionable decisions. Like, he'll go 1-on-3 at times in a way that's frustrating. But he still is helpful to the team's transition attack because he provides that 3-point threat as a trailer in a way that nobody else does. He's shooting basically twice as many pull-up threes a game as anybody else on the team. Like he is basically the one guy who is representing any kind of a pull-up 3-point threat. And so if you were to subtract that, I shudder to think about what this team that is already 3-point deficient would look like. And so that's why, even in spite of the things that might be frustrating, the flaws that he has, I still see him as being a very, very important part of this team. And that's why to me it is a quandary, right? Because there are things that are frustrating that you want him to be doing better, but at the same time, you need the skills that he brings.
How is he both the problem and the answer? But, okay, so 2 things with that. Number one, in terms of his aggressiveness off ball and his determination to get free off ball as compared to other guys in the league. One thing I feel like with IQ, and this is, again, just a pure eye test thing, but it's like I think it's a level of trust, right? Sometimes if you're in the mentality of being a point guard, you're like, okay, I got to float around at the top of the floor in case the play gets stuck. Then I got to reset, and then I got to create the next play. So it's kind of like it's almost like a bit of a conservative style of thinking, but it's like, okay, I need to be available more often for the offense for resets because it might just get stuck, And so usually when he runs through that first action and he's not open off of that right away, then he just kind of starts hovering, and then he's like not seeking for the next one in the mindset of a shooting guard, but kind of staying at the top, being available as a point guard. So that might be one theory as to like why he's not as effective off the ball maybe as he should be. The other part is just, and I'm happy you brought up the pull-up shooting point. I understand they don't have Yak, and if they had Yak, bigger screens, a bigger roller to the basket, someone with more downhill gravity, like it will create more opportunities for a guy to hit pull-up threes because he's mostly pulling up off pick and rolls. He's not pulling up just one-on-one. It's not James Harden, right?
Yeah.
But for the Raptors might be like, I don't know. Are the Raptors last in terms of just pull-up threes per game? Like the Raptors are really good at generating catch-and-shoot threes, which I think is generally speaking a better shot. But for IQ, if you look at the numbers, he's basically been the same efficiency, around like 38 to 40% on both catch-and-shoot and pull-up threes. And usually guys who can shoot close to 40% of pull-up threes are asked to shoot a ton of pull-up threes. It's a huge weapon in a half court, but the Raptors don't even have him do it. For the most part, he's pulling up in transition versus like actually in a half court setting. What do you make of that? Can the Raptors use more of his pull-up 3-point shooting?
Yeah, I think so. I do totally agree that if or when Yak ever gets back, that makes it a lot easier for IQ. Like he needs a good screen to create separation. Like he is not that dude who's creating a ton of separation on his own with like nasty dribble moves or like a wicked step back. So so I think that will help. And I mean, look, like, CMB is a good screener. Maybe they can explore more of like the IQ CMB pick and roll again when CMB gets back. With Scotty, it's like, I mean, Scotty's slipping out of the screen 95% of the time. So it's like that.
Yeah.
When they run pick and roll together, that's more looking to capitalize on, okay, the defense is going to be worried about IQ's pull up. I'm going to slip out. There's going to be 2 guys on the ball. We're going to have a little window where I can get the ball in a 4-on-3. Like that. That is more what they're looking to exploit, I think, when those 2 guys are running pick and roll together. Whereas when it's Yak or even when it's CMB, it might be more focused on, let me make this screen stick so that IQ can get free for a pull-up. But yeah, to your point, they are tied with the Bulls for the fewest pull-up 3-point attempts per game, 5.5 per game. 2.3 of those are from IQ.
Right.
So that is how much.
I feel like Luka's taking 10 pull-up threes a game. So, again, it's just hilarious, yeah.
And they are third last in pull-up three-point percentage at 28.5%. And frankly, IQ for his career has been like a high 30% pull-up three-point shooter. It's one of his most important skills. And this year, up until last night anyway, because I haven't checked since last night's game, but going into that game, he was under 30% as a pull-up three-point shooter. So again,
right.
That's just, you just expect that to regress to his career norms. Like, he didn't suddenly turn into a bad pull-up three-point shooter. He's just been kind of unlucky this year. So that's still a hugely important skill that he brings. And yeah, I do think they can tap into it a little bit more because, again, I feel like the most important thing you can do on offense is draw two guys to the ball. Yeah. And they don't have a lot of guys who can do that when they're standing outside the three-point line. So maybe exploring that a bit more wouldn't be the worst idea.
Right. I mean, that was a lot of what worked last night was him and Scotty together, and the Warriors were really aggressive on the perimeter, and Scotty was just like feasting. I mean, both of those guys were super efficient last night, but especially the start of the game, like literally neither guy could miss. And that's kind of
their best game, by the way, like as a tandem, I think. I don't think we've ever seen a game where they had that kind of synergy playing off of each other on offense.
Right. And even, I mean, they started great, and the Warriors obviously, I mean, I felt like they were kind of shell-shocked, to be honest. It felt like a funeral in the first half, to be honest. I feel like Raptor fans were the only people enjoying that thing. Yeah. It was so quiet in there. But even down the stretch, when the Raptors like started slipping and the Warriors started coming back, like the way they shut the door with IQ and Scotty playing together, and a lot of that stuff, I hope they can do more often. One thing, so Darko's been asked about IQ. This was after IQ hit the game winner in Charlotte. And Darko spoke about sort of IQ's progression as a point guard. I was curious to hear your thoughts in terms of what coach sort of assessed IQ season as.
There is like, I never have a doubt in Immanuel and what he brings to our team, and he's all about team. He's all about being unselfish and all about playing the right way and playing for his teammates and then trying to find ways how to win games. And he's also the player that is like really learning to be a point guard, like first time, like full-time point guard, like run the team, a lot of responsibilities, and he's carrying that with great grace. So I'm really, really happy for him for knocking down that shot.
Yeah, what do you make of that? Like the idea that this is IQ's first time learning the position. Is this like a classic Darko thing, or because
it's
Darko,
kind of a classic Darko thing. I mean, look, we know what Darko is like as a coach, right? He's not gonna be Nick Nurse and come out and like throw his players under the bus in post game media, right? And we don't.
He was specifically hired to be the anti-Nick, so
yeah. He's always gonna have his players' backs, and that's what he should be saying, right? Like he should be trying to instill them with confidence, and I don't. It's not entirely true that this is the first time that IQ is, trying to figure this role out, right? Like that was, I know he only played 30 some games last year, but that was the role that he was in last year. Like there wasn't another point guard who was running the team. Like that was. Even after he got brought in, after his first partial season with the team after the OG trade a couple years ago, that to me was his first time trying to figure out how to be a point guard for the first time. So I wouldn't say that this is like his first year being thrown into this role, and he needs a certain amount of grace because he's never done it before. This is a team that for the couple seasons before this wasn't playing for anything. And that ought to have been the time, like the opportunity for him to explore the studio space a bit, spread his wings, and see what he could do as a starting point guard. And this year, when the team is getting serious about winning, you would hope to have seen, a little bit more, like a higher comfort level, I guess, with those responsibilities and with that role. And again, that goes back to I think it's been unfair at times, but I also understand a little bit where the frustration has come from.
Sure.
Because in my mind, no, it's not the first time that he's been asked to do this, and I think for a young player coming over who did seem to have a lot of promise, I think a lot of people just would have expected to see a bit more growth in the interim period.
For sure. Yeah. I mean, again, I definitely lean more in terms of this is how Darko handles most things, at least publicly.
Yeah.
But yeah. Speaking to the frustration, last thing about IQ, and then we'll pivot and we'll talk about sort of the team's management, because there's a great story by Michael Grange that covers a lot of where the Raptors are going to be going forward. But one of the big frustrations that's always brought up with IQ is like the contract, right? And we're seeing this a lot right now with the Raptors in trade rumors. They're like, well, you got to attach a pick to get rid of IQ's money. IQ's money's bad. You've seen other teams complain about IQ's contract setting a too high of a bar for a player of his caliber, and that affecting other people's negotiations, So whatever. There's always a lot of consternation with this contract. I kind of just wanted to do this exercise with you. So I wanted to look at some point guards, okay, that make roughly in the range of IQ's money, and I excluded from this list guys on rookie scale contracts because it's like really hard to compare. Like obviously Keontae George is providing way more value making $5 million and putting up all-star numbers versus like a guy who's on his second contract. Most of the guys here, by the way, are on their second contract, if not their third. And then I excluded guys making 35 plus because they're pretty much all all-stars. Also, Jalen Brunson's only making like 38 and like Shea's making like 35, which is kind of unbelievable. So we'll take that off because like, to be honest, like, those are kind of our own cases. Clearly we're not looking at an all-star level guard, but in this salary range, we can go player by player if you want to, and you can just give me a yes or no. Would you rather have this player in this role with this team for the Raptors than what IQ is currently doing? All right. We'll start at the very top here. Making 33.6, Jrue Holiday.
I'm going to say, like healthy Jrue Holiday, just for this one season. Is that?
Yeah, sure. I mean, Jrue kind of only plays half the time right now. Like, I think that's pretty clear, but I'm not sure if that's just Portland keeping him like healthy so they can trade him.
Well, I'm just wondering, like, in the spirit of the exercise, are we saying, like, would I make this trade, like, and take, Jrue Holiday with everything that comes along with it, the age, the injury situation, and thinking about long term, or am I just saying, okay, for this 1 year, which of these guys would I rather have when they're like fully operational?
I think you can't just assume fully operational. It's like buying a used car. You know what I mean? You can't just be like, I suppose I'm going to get this car with 0 miles on it. No, it's from 2006. Buddy,
I think you should probably treat this in a way of
like what's realistic you can get from Jrue Holiday out of this season.
What's realistic in the season, but I think also for the way that IQ has been scrutinized as a piece for the Raptors, like you're basically putting whatever one of these players in that same role. So I think you need to consider them also in a long-term sense.
Okay, so yeah, I would say no on Jrue, just because, again, he has been injured for a huge chunk of this season. He's older, obviously provides a different level of defense, leadership, and, probably playmaking is like roughly equivalent. Maybe Drew's a little bit better on that front.
I think he's a little better.
But like, yeah, thinking about like a healthy Jrue fitting in with this defense is pretty exciting. But in terms of the availability, and then again, you are sacrificing some shooting in that trade-off. So I would say no.
De'Aaron Fox making 32.6. I mean, I guess he's got an extension coming up after this, but I think that's an easy yes. I mean, De'Aaron Fox has been great. Derek White making 29.5. I think that's a yes. I mean, Derek White's objectively like much better than IQ. All due respect. Actually,
that's no slight. Like Derek White's unbelievable, man.
Yeah, exactly. Even in a year where his efficiency is down because he's had to create more of his own offense and run point for that Celtics team, I mean, he's been still really great. I mean, yeah, that goes without saying, honestly, almost. DeJounte Murray, injured currently at the moment, making 27. I'm assuming no.
That's a hard no.
That's a hard no, yeah. Okay.
Hard no.
Fred VanVleet, 25.5. Also injured for this season, so kind of a no as well. Although, if you told me a healthy Fred VanVleet or IQ for this team, what would you say?
Yeah.
Not to open old wounds.
No, I mean, I think they honestly serve kind of similar functions for the offense, right? Like having that hybrid guard who can play on the ball or off, who's going to give you high volume 3-point shooting, sort of support the wing creators with the way that they move around off ball. It's somewhat similar, but I think, you factor in what Fred can give you on defense, and you probably give him the slight nod there.
Dyson Daniels making 25. For this team, absolutely not. I'm sorry, man.
Yeah,
this guy's
no,
shooting like
I agree.
9% from 3. I'm not even kidding. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think
Obviously much better defensively, but come on. It's not even close.
agreed.
Terry Rozier on a RICO case, making 24. I mean, that's got to be a no.
Yeah, man. I mean, if you thought IQ was hurting the team, wait till you see a guy fading their over-unders in the middle of a playoff race.
Oh, man. Unbelievable, man. He's not going to Rico Hines runs. He's going to Rico trials. He's Lonzo Ball making $20 million. Some of the ages on here are completely off, man. Lonzo is not 23, but whatever. Forget the age part, okay?
Yeah, this
is
says
Sports
De'Aaron
Talk's fault,
Fox
not
is 22. There's no way that's true.
I mean, if De'Aaron Fox is 22, we're so fucked, man, with the whole Spurs roster. Lonzo's a no. Andrew Nemhard making 19.5. I mean, this is incredible value.
Yeah. If you could just swap IQ with his contract for Nemhard's contract, if the rules around salary matching and trades did not apply,
Sure.
I think you'd have to do this.
100%.
And I hate how, a guy's contract really affects the way that they're talked about as players. Like, obviously that sucks, but that is the reality of the situation in a salary cap league, right? You have to think about,
Of course,
spending efficiency. And yeah, Nemhard at that price for I think he's got like another 2 or 3 years on that deal after this one as well.
it's a pretty great deal.
And I think he can give you enough offensively that the boost that he would give you defensively would be significant, especially when you factor in the cost.
It would add to a little bit of the three-point shooting issues, though. I'm not going to lie, because Andrew's never been a strong three-point shooter in the regular season. In the playoffs, it's a different story. He's like 50% somehow in the playoffs. But
yeah.
I think... I remember... Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I mean, the idea for me would be, okay, like, you're saving $13 million in this exchange.
Right,
can you,
which you could use...
Can you find a way to upgrade your shooting with that little bit of extra wiggle room that you're giving yourself? And... like that's the thing. That is sort of what you have to weigh in all these considerations. Is like, how valuable is IQ shooting to this team, and at what point, like, where is the line beyond which you'd be willing to sacrifice that in order to kind of upgrade the team elsewhere? And
right,
I think Nemhard is sort of past that line. Like, I think he is a guy
sure.
that I would be willing to make that sacrifice for.
Yeah, I mean, we basically have 2 yeses on this entire list. I don't even want to talk Sexton or Schroeder. I don't even know. I should have cut it off before Dennis Schroeder. But like, no, I mean, come on, he's making mid-level. Like, it's apples to oranges at this point. But like,
yeah.
I mean,
but I'd love for them to. I'd love for them to get Sexton as like a guy who could complement IQ. Like
Sexton would be cool, but unfortunately we have no salaries to put together for Sexton unless we're trading RJ. So
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I guess my point with this exercise is just like, I think to put in perspective, like we always talk about the contract, like given chances to swap comparable contracts, like there's like 2 out of like 10 players that we listed here. So like, that's kind of what it is. So that's probably as much discussion as we'll have on Quickley on the entire season. Congrats to Quickley for the 40 ball. That was really great, really timely for yourself. We're going to transition now to talking about the front office. But before we do that, I think I've been making this point about how the Raptors, out of all the people on the team, I feel like IQ is the most overhated. Not saying you got to love him, not saying you got to hate him, but there's no specific reason why you got to blame him for everything. And, I'm just saying, you can make a chill choice. And with Coors Light, you're always making a chill choice. We had this whole discussion, and we've seen the whole season. At certain points, you can certainly get frustrated. But, like, why rile yourself up, man? I mean, right now we're staying up until 10 a.m. or 10 p.m. just to watch the games on the Eastern time zone. And, it's like minus 40 outside, and every Raptor has thrown out their back. I feel like they probably were they were shoveling their drive yards or something. Like it's a difficult time. So when you're done all that shoveling, you stick that Coors Light into the snowbank. Okay, you wait a couple minutes, you pull it out. It's magic. It turns blue. That means the drink is as cold, as refreshing as the Rockies themselves. So when the weather heats down, why not make the chill choice by grabbing a crisp, refreshing Coors Light? Find Coors Light near you. Visit CoorsLightShop.ca. Celebrate responsibly. Must be of legal drinking age. All right, Joe. Let's talk Bobby and the front office and the latest reports.
We actually do have one more ad read that we need to get through to transition to our next part. So we're going to go to that ad right now. You guys take yourselves a little breather, and we'll see you on the other side.
What's good, everybody? It's Will Liu from the Hello and Welcome podcast, and this is my co-host, Alex Wong. We have the best job in the world. We travel a lot to cover the game of basketball.
Yeah, man, we're everywhere. Like, me and Jerome, we've been to Calgary to cover the Raptors at training camp. We've been to Summer League, All-Star Weekend. And every time we go, man, we go on Airbnb and we're able to, just look up places that I think work for us because we want to be in neighborhoods where we can, embed ourselves in the city and learn more about it.
Yeah, and, with Airbnb, the options there, way more space, way more privacy, and definitely better locations to be in those neighborhoods and sort of live like a local. And also very underrated, but personal space is very necessary on these road trips.
No, for sure, man. For all the time that we spend together, working together, you just want that downtime, have our own rooms, have our own showers and stuff. But I think, the good thing about Airbnb too is we're able to find spaces where there's common areas where we can hang out in the living room and be able to record and then just go to the games.
Yeah, most importantly, after all that work is done, we go out and we find the local bars and restaurants that are definitely the favorites in that area. And, by the way, pro tip, speaking of favorites, when we traveled to Raptors Sixers last year, we found a great home on Airbnb using the guest favorites feature. This is a badge that actually shows you the highest rated and most loved homes on Airbnb, ensuring that, we found exactly what we're looking for.
Yeah, man, that's the way to go, man. Book a stay with Airbnb and find out why it's the best way to travel.
Okay, Joe Wolfond, we are going to talk about the latest piece for Michael Grange over at Sportsnet.ca. Man, Grange did a lot of good reporting on this. Grange is on this current Western Conference road trip, giving us concerning updates over CMB, okay, and Jakob, actually. He reported that Jakob went through what can charitably to be described as a light workout, so it doesn't seem like he's anything closer to coming back just yet. But he also reported that CMB is getting additional scanning done on his thumb. Hopefully that all comes back okay. X-rays came back negative, so there's probably not a break, but you just want to be careful, obviously, and make sure that he's okay. But probably the biggest story that he wrote on this road trip so far, the piece is entitled "Raptors Prepare to be Patient with Webster Leading Over the Long Term." And we can talk about sort of the more trade intel bits, which everyone loves to sort of snack on these little morsels of trade rumors. But I think the big thing is, so the big takeaway from the piece is, having done the reporting and actually talked to the people directly involved in management of the Raptors, seems like Bobby Webster is not under any pressure to make a move at this current deadline so that he can justify an extension to his contract. And overall, it seems like, both Keith Pelley as the MLSE president, who has replaced Masai in that role, and also with ownership with Ed Rogers, it seems like guys are pretty happy with the job Bobby's been doing. And so I know Bobby only has another year on his contract that extends to the next year. Most likely they're going to try to extend the situation. Keith Pelley's actually on record saying, quote, "There is no pressure regarding the trade deadline or his contract, and he is 100% aware of that. This team is moving in the right direction, and I'm convinced that Bobby will make the right moves at the right time to make us better. This team, under Bobby's direction, will contend for championships," end quote. And I think, just to take people maybe into the reporting a little bit, not all reports are equal. So when you have unnamed rival Eastern or Western Conference execs saying, "I don't know, it seems like Bobby might need to make a move right now to justify his job and get an extension," that is not the same weight in terms of it's a situation as a direct quote from the MLSE president saying, "We support Bobby. He's going to be here. He's doing a great job." They're not the same thing. Okay, they're just not. And I think in this era of equivalence where everything gets posted on some sort of aggregator account, people just assume that they're all the same. They're not the same. Okay, and I think that for people who want to knock Grange's reporting, this is literally directly from this. I don't know who else you can get this from. Ed Rogers. It's not even Ed's job. It's really Keith's job to do this. So anyway, your thoughts on sort of Bobby's job that he's done so far with the team, and moving forward with him as sort of the head guy.
Yeah, look, I think it's been maybe a bit of a mixed bag. When we talk about some of the inefficient spending, like, look, that Jakob contract is looking rough right now, and hopefully he can get back on the floor, get healthy, and we can move past that conversation and just be like, Jakob's a average starting center, and it's not the end of the world that we're going to be paying him $20+ million for the next 3 seasons or whatever.
Right.
But right now, that is looking like the albatross that is, clogging up the Raptors' books and making it difficult for them to sort of maneuver out of the situation that they're in, which is not a terrible situation. And I think, for a long period of time, I really think the reason that the Raptors kind of found themselves stuck was that they hadn't had the kind of hits in the draft that had helped them build their sort of golden era. Obviously, there were big trades that helped elevate them to where they ultimately got, but hitting on Pascal at number 27 and OG at 23 and finding Fred as an undrafted guy and Norm, at 46, like all of these late kind of draft picks that blossomed into star players is what really helped buoy the Raptors and elevate them into the upper echelon of the league. And then that dried up. And now, you have CMB and Jamal Shed. I think those guys kind of, really like those are the 2 guys above anybody else.
Those
where
are
you
2
look
hits,
at them
for
and
sure.
say, like, 2 absolute bullseyes in the draft. And I think that has really gone a long way toward changing the long-term outlook for this team. And for the Bobby Webster-led front office. So, again, that's why I say kind of mixed bag, right? I think the Ingram trade so far, you'd say, has been a big success in terms of what they gave up to get him. And so, I don't have a significant issue with the job that Bobby's done. And I think it's a good thing that he's not under this pressure to make a big move at the deadline. Like that
For
would
sure.
just lead to you don't want to hear a story that like that's the situation the front office is in, because that is just going to lead to bad decision making. If a guy is sort of making decisions based on what he thinks is going to help his short-term job security, as opposed to having the latitude to make the decisions that are going to be beneficial for this team in the big picture.
Yeah, that's how Brian Colangelo ended up trading for Rudy Gay. Like that's that exact situation. I think if you look at, I guess, like the thing that's tricky to evaluate Bobby is because he was GM under Masai, and then now he's like, the head of basketball operations or whatever you want to call the title, but now he's number 1, right? So it's hard to discern in the past, like what was on Bobby, what was on Masai. I think it was all a collective, like everybody's got to sign off on all the decisions. Obviously, Masai has the ultimate sign off, but there was, as you mentioned, a stretch there where they were breaking picks and they were honestly trading picks in deals that didn't really bring back great value, like the Thad Young trade or even the Jakob trade. You might argue that. Although Masai will swear to this day, okay, he's a top 10 center. That was a good trade. But whatever, right? I think the contract extensions, you can certainly hit them on IQ's, like, probably if IQ was making 25, like literally there would be like no complaints. I really think that's part of it. And then if Jakob wasn't signed to this current extension, I don't think there would be nearly as many complaints. Jakob thing, they got really unlucky, man. I'm sorry. Like it's definitely sucks and it keeps you like chained to the deal for a while, but I don't like the previous track record with Jakob was that he was pretty healthy and pretty productive. And there wasn't anything about his skill set that felt like it was going to decline too much with age, considering he wasn't that athletic to begin with.
Yeah. Can I just push back on that though for a second?
Okay.
Because you're saying they got unlucky, right? But they didn't have to do that when they did it.
They didn't have to do it. You're right.
Here's the thing.
They outsmarted themselves.
Let's say Yak played out this season and it was on par with the best, most productive season of his career.
Right.
And they get to the end of the season and they offer him the same deal that they wound up giving him as an extension. Is that not getting it done? Like for what he
100%
is,
is getting it done. 100%.
So that's what I mean. So it's not really unlucky. Like that was an unforced error.
That was an unforced error. I think they looked at it like, we can make sure that. So okay, at the time he had already 2 years left on his deal, but the last year of his deal on his previous deal was only $20 million, and it was a player option. There was a real chance he could have opted out of that. Although nowadays there's no free agency, so I'm not even entirely sure he would have opted out of that. However, by locking in the extension, you lock him in at 20 for the next 2 years, and that's the main beneficiary of that. And then, of course, you give him the extension on top of that, which realistically tacked it on 3 more years, but the last year of his deal was like partially unguaranteed. I don't know. For me, it felt like a big brain idea in terms of like, okay, like as long as he stays healthy, this deal is probably fine no matter what. We're not having this conversation. But when you lock in a new deal, you are both locking in price certainty and you're locking in a sense of risk. And right now they're getting bit on the risk portion of it. So
they locked in price certainty, all right. That is locked in, my friend.
Jakob's like, I'll lock in price certainty on my end, man. Thank you. I'm paying $28 million right now to go see a to
have a light workout.
Specialist. Oh man, Grange, you got to stop telling us about these light workouts, man. It's killing me. Every time Grange is like, yeah, I could have done that workout, man. I just got a hip replacement. I could have done that workout. Shouts to Grange. Anyway, so okay, I think with Bobby, like the good things, especially since he's taken over, and I think especially as a number one guy, I would argue that at least so far, and realistically, you test leadership in terms of like what happens during a crisis. You know, Raptors have been, relatively speaking, there's been no crises, right? Like since he's taken over, the team, I mean, even being around the team for summer league and preseason and throughout the season, it's like it's kind of operations as normal, to be honest. Nothing has really changed too much. The team has won at a pretty good clip this year. No one's going to ding them for that. That's certainly been a positive. There's, I'm sure some of their attendance issues are getting improved as a result of the winning. Scotty looks to be making his second All-Star appearance. Brandon Ingram looks to be, honestly, he could probably make a second All-Star appearance as well. Like I don't know, when you're having debates about Brandon Ingram or like Norm Powell, it's like, honestly, both guys could be in together, but like, it's not that inconceivable to say Brandon Ingram makes it over like Michael Porter Jr. Mamu has been a good signing for that, and the Raptors have had so many bad free agency signings that like Mamu is like clearly a standout, and then CMB has been a good pick, and so we'll see how they duck the tax. We'll see what moves they make at the trade deadline. But if you're management, I mean, again, I know no one's a fan of like Rodgers and Ed Rodgers in particular as a person, but like if you were in his position, you're like, why am I stressing? My business is going well right now. I'm probably going to keep my manager in place, and that's kind of the decision that you look at, right?
Yeah, by the way, I forgot to mention Mamu when I was talking about, like the hits that his front office has had, but like I'm just thinking about it, and is that top of the pile, like best free agent signing in franchise history in terms of bang for the buck? Like I'm the only thing I can compare it to is Bismack, right? Which was a very similar situation. Yep. Like you got him on the 1 year deal, and then obviously you couldn't keep him because he got paid, and they're not going to have bird rights on Mamu, so he's probably gone after the season. But like, in terms of just like getting your bang for the buck, I feel like that might be the number one free agent signing that the Raptors have ever had, which is sad, but also, kudos to Bobby. That was a great pickup.
Right, because the only other people in contention are like Corey Joseph, which was fine, I think, like good. CJ Miles, which was solid, These are like mid-level kind of pickups, But I think Mamu is just straight up kind of better than both Corey and CJ. And he's making less than that. And I know there's a concern of like how the Raptors going to bring Mamu back. I do think that the cap will go up a little bit, like probably like, I don't know, at least 7 or 8 million this offseason. I think you give that bump basically entirely to Mamu. And then you figure out what you're going to do with your first round pick, because you also got to pay your first round pick. But whatever, those are again, these are the little counting things that Bobby's got to do. In terms of the, like you agree, right? Like I don't, it doesn't really feel like they should go somewhere else with management, at least at the moment. I don't know. It looks like they looked at it in the offseason. They didn't find anybody that was clearly better than Bobby for the top man job. They didn't actually promote him just yet. And actually, Grange did add, according to multiple sources, Webster and the Raptors have had exploratory discussions on a multi-year extension to his current deal, with talks expected to pick up after the trade deadline, which again makes sense. Right now, he should be focused on that. Afterwards, you'll have more free time. between the trade deadline and the draft scouting process. So, yeah, like I don't know, like I guess there has been a lot of critiques about Bobby, and I think IQ and Yak's contracts are probably the biggest things, but
Yeah,
I think for the most part, like no one should be surprised by this. This is good news in my opinion, man.
I totally agree that it's good news. And I mean, the biggest reason it's good news is what I said before, is like you just don't want to be in a situation where your general manager feels like he is working to save his job at the trade deadline.
Yes, absolutely.
But I think it's also, if you look at the big picture, unless a top basketball decision maker is like an out and out disaster and clearly out of his depth, I think you always want to give a guy a chance to express some sort of a long-term vision and enact that over the course of 2 or 3 years, rather than having this revolving door of decision makers that is going to lead to, I think, something that's very scattershot in terms of what the vision is, and maybe like veering from one thing to the other and not settling on a path. And I think if you have the same, singular decision makers, like a front office as a whole obviously has a lot of moving parts. If you have that same group in place for an extended period of time, I think it's much more likely that you're going to wind up with some sort of a cohesive vision. And that's not to say it's guaranteed to work out, but
right.
But that is the point, right? Is like you're building towards something. The Raptors right now are not championship contenders. They've taken a big step forward this year. They're putting themselves on a path to where, okay, like you couldn't stay bad forever. Ultimately, you have to take that step toward being a competitive team, and then you try to raise the ceiling from there. They've made that first and very important step. Making the next step is going to be extremely difficult, especially with some of the financial constraints that they have imposed upon themselves. But I think this front office has earned the opportunity to try and make that step. And I'm curious to see how they go about trying to do it. But ultimately, yes, to me, it is very good news that they're going to be given that opportunity rather than another sort of hasty pivot based on, the after this 2-year like accelerated rebuild, the team now needs to go from, being like a 4 seed to being a 2 seed. Right. I just think that would be really short-sighted.
For sure. Other bits in the story. Raptors just straight up not interested in John Moran, which is also my impression of the situation. I've been saying that on the show a lot. Just I have never heard the Raptors interested in John Moran. I don't think they want those problems. I think Darko, having spent a lot of years as the assistant in Memphis, has a pretty good sense of the situation. And yeah, I don't know. It's not even clear that it'll be. I don't know. The fit is also a little questionable. I mean, obviously, Ja's very talented, and if he told me he turned his career around, like this could be a buy low opportunity for people. Like I totally see the appeal, but I don't know. Are you interested? You want Ja for the Raps?
No.
Okay, yeah,
not.
there you go. That's what the source told. That's what the source told Michael Grange as well. I think I know who that source was, by the way.
Well, this is again, like you mentioned this off the top, right? It's like learning to read reports, right? And like, yeah, you might see something out there where an insider is speculating that the Raptors might be interested in Ja because, well, in the offseason they were interested in getting Trae Young, and like they might have heard from another Eastern Conference executive that, it seems like there might be some pressure on Bobby because he's in the last year of his deal. And again, a lot of that is just speculation, right? So, credit to Grange for basically going right to the source and getting like a sort of definitive answer on A, Bobby's future, B, like the interest in Ja or lack thereof. But no, I mean, I addressed this specifically in my IQ piece, right? Like I just think as much as like if you were going to make that, it wouldn't be a direct 1-for-1 swap because the salaries don't perfectly align. But if you were going to essentially exchange IQ for Ja as your starting point guard, then I think there's a lot of downside there. Even ignoring the lack of availability for Ja, some of the off-court issues, even on the court. It's like, yeah, you get some more of that downhill burst, like a big boost in playmaking, but for a team that is starved for shooting, that's a significant downgrade. And then I also think it's a big downgrade defensively. Like, I think IQ, basically since the coaching staff stopped asking him to pick guys up in the backcourt, has been like pretty solid defensively. especially as a team defender. You know, like he gets in passing lanes, he rotates.
Yeah, I thought he was really good last night, actually. Like, really good last night.
He's been solid defensively, like within the team scheme, very solid. And I think even on the defensive end, that would be a big downgrade going from him to Ja.
Right.
I think it would be a really bad decision to make that exchange, even if in a vacuum you think Ja's the better player.
Right. Other part. The Raptors have certainly called in about Anthony Davis to whatever extent those talks were and how serious those are. Like, you could just call. I mean, that's what GMs be doing all day. It's just Bobby literally walks around with 2 phones in his hand. You see him. He's just always calling people like Joe Dumars. So, like, that's just like the job of a GM. You're just like a professional. Like, you just yap. You know what I mean? Like, all day about trades and stuff. But it seems like there's probably not a deal to be done there. I don't think the Mavs really want long-term money on their books, and obviously the Raptors only have long-term money to sort of offer in exchange for AD. He also mentioned that AD wants a 3-year deal, which good luck AD and Clutch Sports for getting him that 3-year deal. I actually liked AD in the sense of, like, you're kind of doing like let's see what AD could do for the Raptors. Obviously he's certainly a big upgrade over what they currently have. But then I would have made this deal with the contingency of, like, or with the restriction of, we're not going to promise him an extension, and therefore he could almost function as like a semi-expiring, and you can get off of Yak's money if you feel like he's injured too much. But again, like, any good GM, and the Mavericks have not been governed by good GMs recently, but any good GM could see through that and be like, I'm not making that deal either. So whatever, AD is kind of out too. More realistic trade options for the Raptors. You're probably going to see something for Ochai where he gets flipped and they're trying to hit 2 goals. One is to get under luxury tax. Raptors got to trim about $1 million off their books. Ideally more, so they can convert some of their 2 ways if they want to. But realistically, they got to trim $1 million off their books. And they got to exchange probably Ochai, who's got like expiring money, for a center. It says the Raptors have shown interest in Day'Ron Sharpe, Goga Batadze. And also, not specifically the Raptors are interested in Yves Missi, but Yves Missi might be available, which is kind of interesting as well. What do you say to any of these 3 trades? These riveting trades.
I love Day'Ron Sharpe. I really do. Like, and I like Goga as well. Like, honestly, I'd be pretty happy to get any of those guys if it didn't cost too much.
Yeah.
I don't. Okay, so I'm looking now, like, to see what Ochai is making. $6.3 million this year.
Yeah.
So, would trading?
I think you'd have to
would
package
trading
like
Ochai for Day'Ron Sharpe get them under the tax?
Well, I think Day'Ron makes a little bit more, so I think you probably need to throw in an additional piece. I think one of the chat suggested Ochai plus Mobo, like something like that could be, because like the Nets have no qualms about taking on extra salary, like they have lots of flexibility. So,
but look, like Sharpe's actually good. I don't think they're just gonna give him you need to add at least a couple of second rounders to get that done.
Would you do Ochai Mobo in 2 seconds for Day'Ron Sharpe?
100%.
Yeah,
$6.2 million team option for next year on Sharpe. I think that'd be a great deal.
Hey, that's cost certainty right there. Instead of
there you go. Yeah, look, they essentially they need more big bodies. And he's not like a true 7-footer, but he is a guy who kind of plays bigger than his raw size. Like, plays super hard, very physical. One of the best offensive rebounders in the league. You know, sneaky,
like surprisingly good at offense. Like, he's not bad at offense. Like, he's got a jump hook. Like, obviously he's not like going to shoot the 3 and everything like that, but not bad.
Yeah, and he's not like he's not really like an above the rim kind of offensive player. You know, he's not like a jump out of the gym kind of athlete, but I just think he, like, if you're looking for size, there's a guy who imposes his size in a meaningful way on games. Yeah. And also, like, dude, 4.8 assists per 36 minutes this year. Like, I know that's not like the result of him being a special big man passer, but it shows that he can actually operate as kind of like a hub in small spurts offensively. You know, run some DHO, make some high-low feeds, things like that I think would be beneficial. So that'd be a great guy to target, in my opinion.
That's the other part. Like, he's got a good, like, you're making a lot of good arguments for Brooklyn to be like, we should just keep him.
Well, that's the thing, and that's why you know it's nice to say, like, oh yeah, they should just do Ochai and Mobo in a couple of seconds for Day'Ron Sharpe, but that's I don't know that Brooklyn is going to necessarily be interested in doing that. So
Some Nets podcasts out there being like, hell no to this trade. This trade sucks. Goga, I
3
can
second
hear
rounders? Is that getting it done?
I'll go 3 second rounders. I don't care, man.
Same.
3 second rounders for this. So with Goga makes a little bit more. So I think Goga makes like 8 point something. And I know it's like we're haggling over 1 million, 2 million, but like that's pretty important when the Raptors are trying to duck the luxury tax. I think if you're trying to trade for Goga, it's probably going to have to be like Ochai and Grady. And that at that point, I don't know if depends. Like if you really are out on Grady entirely, then you're like, fine, why not make that trade? If you still believe in Grady, you're like, I don't know, like, you know, it feels like you're almost giving up a little bit too much for a backup center. But I could definitely see like Orlando, like they paid everybody, right? So I think next year they have $222 million on the books. Like they're primed to be the next Cavs basically with how much money they have. So it actually does matter to Orlando to trim something like Goga's money off next year's books, especially now that Mo Wagner's back and they already have Wendell Carter. Realistically, the worst contract on that team by far is Isaac, who rarely plays and doesn't play a lot, and he makes like
not
lots
Paolo?
of money. Oh, not PB No J. Come on now, one of the best slider names to come out in recent history. Yeah, actually, Paolo would be the worst contract on that team given his current production. But yeah, I don't know. Goga's fine. He's a very good drop big in terms of like protecting the basket. His numbers are really good in that sense. He's Jakob-esque, I guess. Like a diet.
He's
Jakob.
sneakily.
That's kind of what he is.
I think he's a little bit more coverage versatile than Yak. Like you can sort of play him in a more aggressive pick and roll coverage, and I think he slides his feet quite well. He's a really good he's a much better rim protector than Yak, in my opinion. Now he's not nearly the offensive player that Yak is, but if you're getting him in to be your backup, who can just again provide some of that, you know, like a real punch of defense and rebounding, solid screener, like I'd be interested in that for sure.
Right. And then Misi, definitely the least offensive. Like I mean, it's kind of like a Bismack kind of situation almost with him. Like he's not as bad with the hands as Bismack, but like definitely very limited offensively, but has the most athleticism of the 3 candidates here. Has a smaller deal. I think I pitched like a Misi for Grady deal to Alex, and he laughed at me, which I think he was just like, "Why are you talking to me about, you know, Yves Misi and Grady Dick? Don't you know who I am?" But like, but you're probably a better audience for that. Would you do Grady for Misi?
I think with a lot of these trade frameworks, the question that I always come back to is like, you know, what do we want out of this season vis-a-vis like the bigger picture? Because I wouldn't hate this move, and I think, you know, Misi is also like super young and on a rookie scale deal, so it's like he could help you this year and he could help you into the future.
Right.
In my mind, the reason I'd be a little bit squeamish about it is I just think, you know, if Grady remembers how to shoot, I just feel like the best version of Grady is a more valuable player than the best version of Yves Misi, who to me is, you know, like has I think actually shown like quite a bit of progress defensively this year, but is still basically going to be in this mold of like a rim running, rim protecting center, and ultimately probably topping out as like a really good backup. So I think there is still maybe some like untapped upside with Grady where you would risk trading like a potentially valuable rotation player for somebody who, you know, the Yves Misi mold is a little bit a dime a dozen in the league. Like I mean, I guess even saying that, it's like, well, then why don't the Raptors have one of those guys? Like maybe, I'd be fine with it. You know, I don't think it would be like a surefire home run. And I think, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just like a Grady apologist, but it still feels a little bit early to give up on him. Because I have to believe that he's going to like figure out the jump shooting thing at some point in time. You know, like this guy came into the league as like the best jump shooter in his class, and I think we have seen some progression from him in other aspects of the game that might really pop if he remembers how to shoot. And so part of me is maybe still holding on to that a little bit, despite how poorly this season has gone for him. And so I just feel like if you were trading him, you would maybe hope to get a player that had a little bit more upside than Yves Missi had. But again, like I wouldn't hate that deal. I'll say that.
Yeah, that's why I think it's like fair. Like I don't even think you throw picks into that because like the Pelicans look at it like we get a chance to get basically reset on Jordan Hawkins, who has also been a kind of he was picked right after Grady, and they clearly wanted a shooter in that position. I feel like if the Raptors didn't draft Grady, like the Pelicans would have done that, considering what they wanted at the time. And like, yeah, I mean, for the Raptors, they need size, so it's literally like a straight up, both teams need something else from their lineup construction, and it kind of addresses both. But again, you would have to pull the shoot on Grady. I think the question is like, can Yves like improve enough offensively? Because I don't know, man. I think this is it's gonna hurt like a Scotty, for example, to play with him and Brandon on the offensive end. On the defensive end, it'll certainly help, but the Raptors are already pretty good on the defensive end, so I don't know.
Well, I mean, the other aspect
actually
of that is like a center like that who is sort of like going to be a very dependent scorer and rely on like a guard to set them up in pick and roll. The Raptors aren't the team that is like best optimized that type to best optimize that type of center.
Right. Exactly.
They don't have the guards who are going to make life easier for that sort of like rim running, screen and dive type of big.
Yeah, and I think there's levels to this, like because you could argue that Dayron's similar to this, but I don't know. He just has like a better offensive feel, and like it's all marginal, right? But like you can't just lump Yakin with like all the other rim running bigs because like he's better than that, and that's why you got to pay him $100 million on that extension. So
apparently,
Joey, appreciate you, dog.
Appreciate you too, man.
How you been? Do you want to do a little quick Jays corner, just like can I check in with you as a friend? Like, hold on,
yeah, man. Like
sorry,
it's tough to see Bo go. I'm not gonna lie. That one hurts.
Did we
and
fuck
I
up?
was really
Did we like? Because you know what I mean. Like chasing Tucker the whole time is a definitely sign to Bo to be like, hey, low key. Like you can't just go back to Bo after that. Like if I were Bo, I'm like, fuck you, man. I just hit a 3-run home run. Like. In Game 7, off Shohei.
Okay, so I've heard people say this, and what I don't understand is, like, dude, he signed with the Mets. Like, the Mets were right there, like, chasing Kyle Tucker right up to the end also. They pivoted to Bo. Like, so...
Okay.
I mean, maybe it's because, like, he was on the Jays and felt slighted. He's like, I've given, so much to y'all, for the last 7 years. And it was different for the Mets because, he didn't have any kind of attachment to them, so he couldn't feel spurned to the same degree. This was my fear, was that they were going to get caught up in this Kyle Tucker pursuit, ultimately get outbid, and then, they were going to miss out on their chance to bring Bo back. Like, I always, going into the offseason, wanted him to be the priority. And I don't have a huge problem with the way they went about it. Like, getting Dylan Cease was massive. And I understood them prioritizing pitching. Like, they needed to do that. I'm super happy that they got Dylan Cease done. But on the position player side, I really wanted them to focus on bringing Bo back, and it sucks that sort of slipped out of their grasp. Now, was there ever going to be an opportunity to do that? Like if they came, the Phillies offer that he had reportedly agreed to before turning around and signing with the Mets was 7 years, $200 million. If the Jays had just offered him that on like the first day of free agency, would he have said, okay, let's ride? And jumped at that? I don't know. Like, him and his reps might have been dead set on waiting it out, seeing how the market played out, waiting for Tucker to sign so he had maximum leverage. I don't know if that opportunity was ever going to be on the table. But, the way it played out, having 3 months of, like, nonstop rumors about the Jays are the favorite for Kyle Tucker. Guys are out there saying, it's possible that they're going to sign Tucker and bring back Bo, and then to wind up with neither of them is tough, and it makes an offseason that started with all of this momentum and optimism feel kind of like a letdown in the end. But I think they're still going into next season as, if not the if not the clear favorite in the AL East, at least like right there as like you're going to be competing for the division again. The position player core, you know, you've swapped out Bo for Okamoto. And I think, you know, you maybe can bank on a bounce back from Santander, but you're also probably expecting some regression from George Springer. Then maybe, you know, you expect Vlad to have a better regular season than he had last year, but is like, I think anywhere you can see like a potential bounce back, you can also see regression as well. So I would say the position player group is probably like a hair worse, and the pitching staff is better. So, you know, let's see what happens. Like, I'm trying to stay in a positive frame of mind, but it definitely, like, a lot of air came out of the balloon in like 12 hours.
The concern I think for me is, can we have enough protection for Vladdy? Because, you know, there were even times in the postseason. I mean, Vladdy getting intentionally walked, considering how hot he was, that's normal. But like, it just felt like, especially without Bo there hitting behind him, and Bo leading the league in hits before obviously he got injured towards the end of the year, like that was such a nice bit of the lineup. Was just like you had nowhere to go against the Jays lineup. So if Tucker was plan A and Bo was plan B, do we have a plan C? Like, is there anyone else? Like,
I mean, Cody Bellinger is still out there, and there is a sense in which, you know,
he's good.
Like, you're looking at your outfield beyond 2026, and you don't know if Varsho is going to stick around. And I mean, Springer's basically a full-time DH at this point anyway. But I think you sort of assume if Springer's gone, then Santander slides into the DH spot, and you need somebody to fill that outfield vacancy. And also, you want like a lefty bat essentially to put between Springer and Vlad in the order. Last year they were doing that with, you know, the likes of Nathan Lucas. And Lucas had a really nice season, was a valuable contributor, but Bellinger would be a clear upgrade there. So there are a lot of ways in which that's a fit. But for what he's asking for in terms of length and dollars, I just don't know that they're going to go. I don't think they're going to go there. As much as it would be sweet to like poach him from the Yankees and like make yourself better and deplete a division rival in the process, I don't know if that's going to happen. But I do think like I wouldn't hate them like exploring the trade market for an outfielder, and maybe that happens in season. But like I've been begging, and I know he's unbelievably injury prone, but the guy I've wanted them to try and get for so long is Byron Buxton, because like that's a dude who for next season, like you could stick him in a corner, and like having him and Varsho out there is like elite defensive outfield. And then if Varsho does leave, then you can have Buxton sort of taking over as a center fielder. He's got a great contract for like 5 years after this one. Prodigious power, unbelievable speed, just like a super cool player. So if, I don't know if the Twins are going to be willing to move on from him, but if they were like targeting a guy in a trade that would maybe come out of left field, he's the one that I would want them to go after.
See, this is the part that I think is like very underrated about having already a really good team, is the only guys you're looking to trade or sign are like the best of the best, because like there's not a lot of areas to improve on the Jays currently, and I'm not trying to be like arrogant about it, but like when you have a good team, you're not just talking about bringing in some random guy, you know what I mean? This ain't the Raptors trying to trade for Misi, okay? You know what I mean? Like they're in the market for some Jokic's and some Embiids, okay? So I do like that aspect, and of course if you're gonna compete with these goddamn Dodgers, like you know you have to make some sort of huge subsequent move. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. You think we're gonna?
But also, like, this Blue Jays front office is not above going after an Yves Misi. Like, they will make these kind of moves on the margins as well.
That's
like,
Bobby's job, okay? Ed Rogers calling Shapiro about things bigger than Yves Misi. Ed Rogers doesn't even know who Yves Misi is, man. He's like, who? I'm in Mar-a-Lago with Trump right now, man. I don't want to hear about this shit. Bye. I think
they got Eloy Jimenez on a minor league deal, dude. Like this. All
right. Well,
anyway.
You know, yeah. We getting a lockout or what, man? If the Dodgers win again, let's lock it out, man. Just for the good of the sport, man. I can't.
Oh, dude, come on. You can't be a baseball fan advocating for a lockout. Be serious.
No, I'm just salty. I'm not speaking as a fan. I'm speaking as just being salty. Like, who could stop the Dodgers outside of like a lockout?
Dude, the
rest of the league gotta
randomness of
walk off,
the
okay?
randomness of baseball is what can stop the Dodgers. Like,
Oh my god. But
look, that's what the sport is. Like, it isn't like basketball where, you know, when the Warriors got
I know.
KD, it really was like, okay, shut it down. Nobody's winning the title and like even then it's like, all right, well, they won 2 titles. They in the second year they very nearly lost to the Rockets in the conference finals. And in the third year with KD, the Raptors won the championship. So it's like none of this stuff is ever guaranteed, but especially in baseball where you know, it's just a couple years ago the Dodgers won 111 games and then they got swept in the NLDS. Like crazy shit happens in this sport. You know, it is far from a foregone conclusion that the Dodgers are going to win again. You know, by the same token, it's far from a foregone conclusion that the Blue Jays are going to be competing for the World Series again in 2026. Like, that's just the way the sport goes. But,
fair.
you know, I don't think you can look at this and be like, oh, shut it down because nobody else has a chance.
All right.
I think, look, this next labor dispute, without a doubt, is going to be insanely contentious, and a work stoppage is very likely. And that sucks. But I just hope that they can, you know, come to some sort of agreement that is good for the sport and that leads to ideally no missed games, but if it has to come to missed games, then hopefully it's, you know, you're not losing a whole season and you're coming out of it with a CBA that is going to be good for the health of the sport overall.
There you go. All right, Joey, I kept you long enough, man. But
I could do this all day, bro.
Quickly quandary. I know this is what I was gonna pivot to was, you know what I mean? Like anybody who wants basketball coverage, anyone who wants tennis coverage. We didn't even talk tennis because last time I tried to talking tennis with you, I'm like, is Yannick Sinner good? You know, it just doesn't. It's not worth it, man. I'm wasting your time. Jay's coverage, like, you know what I mean? Joe Wolfond, you know what I mean? Like one of the best free agents on the market, man. This guy's versatile. He's literally the best writer in the game. He knows all hoops. He actually plays a bunch of sports too. So, you know, if you want to bring him to your I don't know, your ultimate frisbee team, I think he's interested in joining an ultimate team sometime, you know. So
yeah, it's been a minute since I've thrown the disc, I gotta say.
Yeah, but you know, it's fine, man. You're an athletic specimen. You can just play any sport. You're like the sporting version of Ben Zobrist. You know, just pop him anywhere on a pitch, on ice. I'm sure you could skate. You know,
I grew up playing hockey. I'm a pretty good skater.
There you go.
But yeah, let me just say, subscribe to Raptors in 7 because I'm going to be writing there for the remainder of the season.
Okay.
And obviously, I'm sure everybody listening knows Vivek and his work. He does great work. So, yeah, you can go and check out my piece there on Quickley. More of that to come. And if you want to subscribe and get that content straight to your inbox, please do that because, yeah, I'm going to be writing there for the rest of the year.
There you go. Okay. Thanks everyone for listening. We'll be back on Friday. Actually, I'll be back later tonight because the Raptors play again tonight. So I think it's Raptors Kings tonight. So I'll be back later tonight. I'll hopefully get like a 2-hour nap in between. And otherwise, we'll see you on Friday for Alex's return to the show.